Sheikh Hamdan cried in public. Nobody talked about it, everyone saw it. And nobody said a word. That is the thing about moments like this. They happen in plain sight, in front of cameras, in front of crowds, and somehow the world still manages to look away. Because when a powerful man shows something real, something unscripted, something that was never supposed to happen in public, the people around him instinctively pretend they did not see it. The cameras move on. The headlines focus on something else. And the moment gets buried under the weight of everything the official story needs the world to believe instead. But the moment happened. People who were there saw it. And once you know what to look for, once you understand the context of what was happening in his life at that time, it changes the way you see everything about Sheikh Hamdan. Sheikh Hamdan, Fazza, is one of the most composed public figures in the world. That is not an accident. It is something that has been trained into him from the time he was old enough to understand what it meant to carry the Al Maktoum name in public. Emotions are private. Weakness is private. The face you show the world is controlled, dignified, unshakable. That is the standard. That is the expectation. And for most of his public life, Hamdan has met that standard with a consistency that has only added to his image as someone who moves through the world with effortless grace. But effortless grace is a performance. And like all performances, it has moments where the human being underneath it breaks through. This was one of those moments. It happened during a period that most people who follow his story closely already recognize as one of the hardest stretches of his adult life. The arranged marriage had ended. The private life he had built with the woman he truly loved was under enormous pressure from his family. The political demands being placed on him following major shifts in the UAE leadership were heavier than they had ever been. And Hamdan, who had been carrying all of this with the characteristic composure his public role required, was at a point where the weight of it had become almost impossible to manage invisibly. He was at a public event, a formal one, the kind of event where every detail is planned and every moment is supposed to go exactly the way it was designed to go. He was surrounded by people, officials, family members, staff, all of whom were operating within the same unspoken agreement that public composure is non negotiable. And then something happened. A small thing, probably. The kind of small thing that would not have mattered on a different day or in a different chapter of his life. But on that day, in that moment, it found the exact crack in the wall that had been building for months. And the tears came, not dramatically, not in the way that would have made it impossible for everyone around him to pretend it was not happening. Just quietly, the way real grief comes when a person has been holding it for too long and something small and unexpected tips the balance. His eyes, the way his face changed for just a moment before the training and the discipline and the years of public life reasserted themselves, and he pulled it back. Most people in that room looked away immediately because looking would have meant acknowledging it, and acknowledging it would have meant that something was wrong. And something being wrong with the Crown Prince of Dubai is not a story that anyone in that room was prepared to be a part of. But it happened. And the people who caught it, the ones who were paying close enough attention, understood that they had just seen something that the official story of Sheikh Hamdan was never supposed to include. To understand why that moment happened, you have to understand what he was carrying at the time. The woman he had built his private life with, the one he had chosen after his arranged marriage fell apart, the one who had become the mother of his children, had recently been asked to leave. Not by Hamdan, by the circumstances that his father's decisions had created. She had taken the children and stepped back from his life quietly, the way people step back from things they have no power to change. And Hamdan had stood there and let it happen because he had no real alternative. That kind of loss does not announce itself cleanly. It does not arrive all at once and then recede. It comes in waves. It finds you in ordinary moments, in the middle of a sentence, in the pause between one thing and the next, in a public event that should be routine, but suddenly is not because something in the room or the ceremony or the faces of the people around you reminds you of what is missing. That is what happened to him. Something reminded him. And for one unguarded moment, the reminder was stronger than the composure. His poetry from that same period carries the same quality as that moment. A rawness that breaks through the surface of the more controlled emotion his public writing usually maintains. He wrote about loss in a way that felt less like poetry and more like documentation. Like a man trying to record something he was afraid he might otherwise not survive intact. The poem he posted in late June, the one about a soul searching for life without finding it, was not written by a man who was managing his grief successfully. It was written by a man who was barely managing it at all. And yet the world said nothing. The cameras moved on. The official accounts posted other photographs. The moment in public was quietly swallowed by the larger machinery of royal image management that ensures the Crown Prince of Dubai is always seen as exactly what his position requires him to be: strong, stable, untroubled by anything the world does not need to know about. The tear that appeared in public was edited out of the narrative before most people even had a chance to notice it was there. This is what it costs to be who he is. Not just the loss itself, not just the woman who left, or the children who went with her, or the private life that was dismantled because it did not serve the larger plan, but also the loss of the right to grieve, any of it publicly. The loss of the basic human permission to be seen falling apart by the people around you. Most people, when they lose something important, are allowed to show it, are allowed to be comforted, are allowed to have their pain acknowledged by the world without that acknowledgement threatening anything larger than their own feelings. Hamdan does not have that. He never has. Every emotion that does not serve the image must be managed privately, behind palace walls, in the poems that say everything he is not allowed to say out loud, except for one moment. One public moment where the grief was faster than the composure, and something real broke through before anyone could stop it. Nobody talked about it. Nobody was going to talk about it. But it happened. And the people who saw it understood for just a second that behind everything the world has been shown about the Crown Prince of Dubai, there is a man who has been quietly breaking for a very long time. Subscribe to this channel and hit the bell. Every week, I bring you the moments that the official story leaves out. The truth about Sheikh Hamdan that the cameras were never supposed to capture.